Hello, good afternoon. Looks like I do have my guest, Dr. Satish Narayanan. Satish, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Hi, Sridhar.
Uh, all right, so I think we had a little glitch in the last one. I think it's happened to a lot of the podcasts I've done, but I think it could probably be my user error part. But anyway, we'll have to talk about the Formula One again, and that's what we're here for today. As I mentioned in the Formula One, I gave like a little introduction earlier today, but what we're going to do today is that Satish is going to provide some expert analysis on the Formula One season, the Formula One teams and drivers, and I'm going to let him, kind of introduce the audience to the Formula One circuit, and then we'll quickly dive into the first half of the season, which ended some time back, and then the next half of the season is going to start in Netherlands tomorrow, and we go to the home stretch all the way to Abu Dhabi. So with that being said, Satish, I am going to turn the floor over to you, and then you can discuss what we missed before. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Sridhar. Excited to be on. This is, I don't know about an expert, but this sport has really captivated me. It's a bit of a niche sport, but it's very exciting. So you already did the 101 style intro, so you saved me some time. Let's jump right into it and talk this year's season. But first, I just wanted to say a few words about the teams, right? So Sridhar talked about it at the intro. 10 teams, 20 drivers. The teams, I don't know if we talked about the lineup, are Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Haas, McLaren, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and Williams. So with that, the 23 season has 23 races. 13 are actually behind us, and we are coming off of a full month of August where everyone just stopped driving around and took a nice big break, and are getting ready for the second half, which is going to start literally tomorrow, actually tomorrow morning. So, what's going on? Max Verstappen, the Dutch driver on the Red Bull team, and his Red Bull team are leading the pack. And Christian Horner, who's the Red Bull principal, is loving it. Years and years of sitting on second or third behind his Mercedes competition with their principal Toto Wolff is kind of an interesting reversal of fortunes. But Christian is loving it. Grand Prix. After that, there is remaining another 10 races that take us around the globe from Italy to Singapore and Japan, Qatar, twice in the US, once in Austin and once in Las Vegas. That may be a first. Mexico City, Sao Paulo, and like Sridhar said earlier, finish out this year's season in Abu Dhabi at the end of November. So that's a little bit of this season's highlight, Sridhar.
Yep, I think that's the one we were talking about. Abu Dhabi was the one that they ended the night race, but the Netherlands one is the one where, as you mentioned, Verstappen has dominated. He's got the pole position based on the qualifying races today, and Perez and Verstappen have been unstoppable. Red Bull is leading the pack with 503 points, I think, and then right now we have on the driver's side we have Perez and Max and Perez, followed by I think Alonso. But that being said, um, Verstappen has dominated, and to your point, Christian Horner is loving it because they've always been in second place to Mercedes. Mercedes has dominated the sport for many years. Hamilton was the signature driver for them, if I'm not mistaken, and Red Bull is now, it's I would say it's their moment to shine in the sun. And to your point, one thing I did want to ask you about was as we go into the second half of the season, is that we know they're dominating, but who do you think has the best chance to beat Red Bull and beat Max, and the drivers and the teams as well?
Yeah. I think, yeah, Red Bull is so far ahead, just twice the number of points, I think, than the second place. Having said that, you've got Mercedes actually has moved up to second place after kind of falling behind quite a bit last year. And so they're in second place. Aston Martin is very close behind. They've never been up at this far up in the constructors championship listing. And then it's followed by Ferrari and McLaren, who are also very close. So I think the second place, both drivers and teams, could be really interesting fights for the years. I would say it's not a given for Sergio, even though he's number two behind Max. Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes will make a run, and so watch out for that. And then a little bit behind would be Charles Leclerc and George Russell. So Charles Leclerc drives for Ferrari, and George Russell drives for Mercedes. So what I would say is, if Mercedes and Lewis and George continue to perform, they keep the second place. But if Aston gives them a run with Fernando and Lance Stroll, who are both doing very well, I would say they could give Mercedes a run for their money. And Ferrari is also equally positioned. They could be the spoiler because Charles Leclerc and Sainz, who race with that team, are kind of middle of the pack, but pretty solid in terms of points.
Right, right. So I think, I mean, there, while it's doable, but there's a lot for these teams and drivers to um, have a good showing in the following Grand Prix that will start with Netherlands tomorrow. And I'm definitely sure that we'll both be up to watch that. And I think Max has been leading so much that sometimes he kind of makes watching the race is boring. But hey, you know what? You never know. Sometimes with these Formula Ones, there's always someone can slip through and see if they can pose some kind of a threat for Max and Red Bull. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
one of
it's,
the big
just it always happens, right? It's always
right,
bouncing back. There was a time when Christian and Max would just be frustrated with how Lewis Hamilton would just like race after race go after it. So, it ebbs and flows, but that's kind of nature of the game. Max is kind of, a little bit newbie in the circuit for the last few years, but he's
and
steadily
very
grown.
cocky
And
and very very cocky. Um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And I think I think Satish and I definitely one of the things that Formula One actually has been on our radar. Not that we did follow these races. I mean, we've had great racers like Ayrton Senna, who's my favorite from Brazil, and then Alain Prost, and then you also had Michael Schumacher from Germany.
yeah,
They
yeah,
were dominant sport for many, many, many years. So it has always been on our top. But I do think that the Netflix series Drive to Survive really got a lot of interest, especially in a lot of Americans, to expose them to Formula One. And I think you made a good point about having three races in the United States. One, Miami is already done, but then there is Austin and Las Vegas to come. And I think I made a mistake in my first podcast, but I said Vegas had already hosted one. So I stand corrected. But I do think that for the United States to host three races, I know NASCAR is probably one of the most popular sports in the United States from a car racing standpoint, but Formula One is here to stay in the United States and definitely picking up a lot of interest, not only thanks to the Netflix series, but also having more races in the United States for people to watch.
yeah, yeah, definitely. A lot of fun and excitement to look forward to. Especially, people talk a lot about the drivers and the principals, but another major component of this sport, which is a little bit different than other sports, is you have the engine, right? So each team is constantly going back every year and tuning up their engine, their car frames, and trying to get that extra edge. And that's the difference between being at the top or not.
No, that's a very good point, and because that's one thing that the Netflix series did cover, because Red Bull, like you mentioned, was always playing second fiddle, but I think ever since they went from the Renault engines to the Honda engines, there was a big gamble for
Yeah,
Horner, to
yeah,
be honest, and they've not looked back, and they've been quite dominating force. And Max has been just probably the best driver you're probably going to see, and he's already making himself in the top echelon of drivers like Schumacher and Senna of the world. So No, this is fantastic. I think, like I said, thank you again, uh, Satish, for joining. And I'm sure we'll do more of this. I will also cover other sports, football. But for the Formula One fans out there, this has been exciting. And I really thank Satish for joining and spending some time with us. So thank you,
Absolutely. Thank
Satish.
you, Sridhar. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.